Today on Encounters with Weston Forbes, I'm here with the one and only, probably the most famous lawyer in Fayetteville, Mr. Tom Kirkbride, ladies and gentlemen. He's not a downtown lawyer, he's a hometown lawyer. So, Tom, thanks for being with me today and coming to have a conversation. So what do you think, man? What do you think?
Wes, I'm impressed. You go from the stage to now you got the podcast set up and everything. I mean, you are everywhere. You are on fire.
Yeah.
You are an amazing, amazing entertainer and DJ. I've used you for parties and other things, and I'm just so blessed to have you as a friend and everything. And by the way, shameless plug, if you need anybody to do your weddings or parties or anything, Wes is the man.
Yeah. And if you slip and fall...
Help me help you.
Go to the hospital.
Yeah, get treated first.
Go to the hospital.
Yeah.
So no, I just wanted to have you on here and just talk. We became friends over the past 2 years, and I learned a lot about you. And you're an interesting fella, to say the least, and you've done a lot in your life. So I kind of wanted to use this platform to allow you to kind of share your story, get people to realize how much goes into everything that you do. We were talking on Wednesday about how busy you are and all the things that you have going on in your life. So I just wanted to have you on and talk a little bit. Well, my first question, we'll get right into it, is has to do with your childhood. Like, who was 10-year-old Tom? Or did you go by Tom? Is your name just Tom?
It's Tom.
Okay, because it's not Thomas.
It's not Tom or Tom. Yeah,
Theodore or anything
like
that.
My dad came to my house one day and he saw like a certificate on the wall, and he goes, and it said, Thomas Kirkbride. And he goes, well, that's not your name. I named you Tom. And I said, well, Dad, did you not think that people would make that normal assumption? He goes, no, I never thought that. Okay, so, listen, call me whatever you want. Just don't call me late to dinner.
So your birth certificate says Tom.
Tom, T-O-M, yes.
Okay. Awesome. So 10-year-old Tom, what was he like?
Wide open,
okay.
Hair on fire, 100 miles an hour, riding my Schwinn bike everywhere, and stuff. And I never would have thought that I would end up where I am now. Back in the day, I went in the military at a very young age, and that truly saved me, I think, because I was probably on that edge of I could have gone either way.
Yeah.
I wasn't real academically inclined. I didn't do real good in high school. I played football and things. And then when I went in the military, I just decided this is what I wanted to do. And unfortunately, my career came to an end when I was hurt and got out. And look, what am I going to do now? I was a bomb disposal technician. And, what am I going to do? So I became a cop, and right here in Georgia, started Henry County Police Department, stayed there. I was a detective there. I worked narcotics. I worked intelligence, things of that nature. And then left there and went to Fayetteville and came to the PD here in 94 and stayed there until 2002, 2001 when 9/11 happened.
Okay.
9/11 happened, and a good friend of mine that I was in the military with called me and said, hey, do you want a job? And I said, well, I got a job. He's like, no, we're hiring air marshals. And so at that point, I said, okay. And I became an air marshal. So for the next 20 years, I spent that time as an air marshal.
And there was no air marshals before that, right? 9/11 brought that on? Or?
No, there were 38 original air marshals. So on 9/11, 2001, there were 38 air marshals. 18 months later, we had over 5,000.
Wow.
And so it was a massive ramp up. In that they were looking for people who'd had particular skill sets. They were like prior military, they like, cops, people who could be easily vetted, SWAT team training, medical, pilots, bomb techs, things of that nature. And so I was a good fit for that, and I absolutely loved it. Traveled all over the world. Yeah, it's been pretty much everywhere. I've been to every continent but Antarctica, and I had a good time. I like that. So fast forward, about 6-7 years ago, I decided, what am I going to do? I'm going to retire, and I'm young.
Yeah.
And, the Lord blessed me with a a good position, good retirement, and things of that nature. But I'm not the kind of person just going to go home and stay at home.
Yeah.
So I went to law school. So at 52, I walked into law school at John Marshall, Atlanta, and I walked in, and I remember I was in the elevator, and a young woman said, she turned and looked at me, and she said, "Excuse me, professor, what do you teach?" And I looked at her and I said, I'm a law student just like you are.
Yeah.
And she was like, oh, and we became good friends and stuff. But I was certainly the oldest one of my class. And then I took the bar, passed bar, and I knew didn't want to really work for anybody. I hung my own shingle, started my practice here in Fayetteville. A couple of years overlapped. Then I retired from the federal government and did my practice full time. And here's where I am.
That's awesome. So back to younger you, where did you grow up at? 10-year-old Schwinn riding Tom?
Well, it's cool because, for the first 12 years, I lived in the Mojave Desert out in the middle of California. And my father was there working at a naval base called China Lake in Ridgecrest, California. It was right there in the middle of the Mojave Desert. And it was a wonderful place to grow up because you had the high desert, and right behind it were the Sierra Mountains. So if it got real hot, you could go, we spent a lot of time camping and hiking and things of that nature. And it's kind of ironic because I'm within 50 miles of the highest point in North America, in the continental United States, Mount Whitney, and I'm about 75 miles from the lowest point, which is at Death Valley. So it was kind of a cool environment. So, and it was a great place to grow up because, you'd ride your bike, you'd be out in the desert, exploring old abandoned mines and, things like that. And I can remember, several days my mom coming out and shooing the rattlesnakes off the porch, and stuff, and things.
With the broom?
With the broom, yeah. Hardcore, yeah. And
no fear there.
Yeah, no fear. And then it was a good place to live and grow up. And then my dad left there and went to Washington, D.C. And then I grew up in Northern Virginia, outside of Washington, and then left there about 17, went in the military, and really had no desire to come back. I called Georgia home. Georgia's been my home now for over 35 years, and I'm blessed to call Fayetteville home.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So rattlesnakes, death, all this stuff surrounding you at a young age. What kind of right before you got into the military, like what was the things that was kind of pushing you to try to get some stability in your life and going like that? Was it the people you're hanging around with? I
think that the people, and also I just wasn't, I wasn't interested in school.
Yeah.
And that caused some friction between my family and I. My dad and my mom were both college graduates. And at that time, they wanted me to go to college, and I just wasn't going to go to college.
Yeah.
And I didn't really care. I was phoning it in. I was passing my classes, but that's about it. There was no drive there. And I think that's what it is. You have to find it for yourself, your drive, your center, your focus. What am I working towards?
Yeah.
And as soon as you can do that, you're going to be better off. And it doesn't mean it can't change, because it can. It's like, okay, what I wanted to do when I was younger may not necessarily be what I ended up as. But again, if you've got that drive, that becomes your focal point. You wake up in the morning and go, okay, this is what I'm going to do. How do I get there? And I tell people, that I talk to now that are going through personal traumas, or they've been arrested, or they've done, things that they wish they hadn't done. I always tell them, I'm like, look, remember, the windshield in the car is huge, and there's just this little rear view mirror, and that there's a reason for that. You want that big view of what's forward, keep moving forward, and that rear view mirror is just tiny, and you're looking back, and you're like, don't look back. There's really not a lot there. If you think about it, all the bad decisions you've made or bad relationships you've been in or something, it's about where am I going? What am I doing? How do I move forward? How do I push through whatever's here? And go from there. And that's really what I have found and drives my life. And I tell people that. I'm like, look, what happened. How do we move on? How do we move forward? How do we get there? Because time heals everything.
Facing a DUI, personal injury, or a car accident, Tom Kirkbride fights for your rights to get the justice you deserve. With years of experience and a proven track record, Tom Kirkbride is your hometown lawyer. Let him help you get through those tough times. Give him a call today. The law firm of Tom Kirkbride, your local advocate, your trusted ally. Call now for a free consultation. So something I figured out on my own in my own life is that I struggle with ADD, and the teachers growing up were boring. It wasn't something I was interested in, so I didn't pay attention. And maybe you're similar like that, because then you get into something like law where you're passionate about it. And then, I mean, I know a couple other lawyers. The law school is intense, and you've talked to me about how much writing goes into it and all that stuff. So it's not something that you could have done when you were younger because it wasn't something that interested you, right? So now at 52 years old, you've kind of seen the side of law through law enforcement and all that. What made you want to be a lawyer, though, and not try to continue in the police world?
Well, I wanted to, let me back up on that. And I do believe that I've never been diagnosed with ADHD or anything like that, but I have it. There's no doubt in my mind. If you look at the clinical background of that, I absolutely have that.
Yeah.
And I think that what happened is at a younger age, you can't manage it. There wasn't really a medical protocol or any of that kind of stuff. Now they've got medication and things like that, but there wasn't really anything to do. So I was exactly the same way that you are. I was bored.
Yeah.
Nothing challenged me. Nothing interested me. Nothing stimulated me. Nothing was like, okay. And I think that's what caused that flounder. And I also believe that that was one of my things about law school was I'm interested in the law. And for the folks who know, I've got a son who's 21. He'll be 22 in a couple of days. And he's at his last year at Georgia State, and he's decided he wants to go to law school. And I had this discussion with him, and I said, Jason, let's be perfectly clear. I don't want you to go to law school because I'm a lawyer.
Yeah.
I want you to go to law school because you want to go to law school. And I really, in his whole life, I never pushed him to college. I said, whatever you want to do it. Be the best you can. If you want to be a heating and air conditioning guy, I will put you through school. If you want to be a welder, if you want to go into a trade, whatever you want to do, you do you. Don't do it just because of me. And he said something to me that made a lot of sense. He said, Dad, he goes, lawyers run the world. Lawyers make the decisions. Look at how many lawyers there are in Congress. Look at how many presidents have been lawyers. There's not a single decision that is made in business without two considerations, tax implications and the legal implications. He said, lawyers make the rules, lawyers interpret the rules. That is where I'd like to be. And he came up with that on his own, not from me. And I just, at that point, I was like, this kid's got it. He understands at that age, that. And I think he also has that, the same thing that I have is that sense of fundamental fairness, that everybody has a right to be heard. Everyone has a right to have their side of the story presented. And, when I look at things, that when justice is not done, even though I'm not in the case, it makes me mad. It makes me mad. I'm like, this person wasn't heard, or this happened, or that happened. There wasn't that due process afforded. And I think that's one of the biggest things that drives my train is how do I help people become their voice when they don't have that voice and they don't seem like they're being heard. And I think my son has that as well. So,
and do you, as much as you can share with him, do you kind of share with him some things that that he can, look forward to or maybe watch out for, or, especially in school, there's so many different kinds of law, right? Mm-hmm. So, do you ever kind of let back the veil and kind of show him maybe some of the stuff that not every day people see that lawyers have to deal with on a daily basis?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. But the good part about being a lawyer is it covers every aspect of your life, from environmental to product liability to the, manufacturing to trademark. Everything has some aspect of the law. So whatever you're passionate about, you can find that area in the law. And he's got a good eye for it. I've had him help me review cases and things, and he's seen things that I didn't see because as his point of view may be different than mine. And, I think that's the key thing is, and it doesn't matter just because it's my son. If I had a person that was in my law office working with me, I always try to do, I believe my job is as much educator, mentor, coach as it is anything else. And we have conversations all the time about certain cases that come up and things that, just because it's being heard in California doesn't mean we can't talk about it here, or the Trump cases or whatever. It doesn't, everybody has an opinion, but let's talk about what the law is and go from there. So I think with that being said, he is his eyes are open and he can practice any kind of law he wants to. If he wants to proceed, go ahead. Just my only thing is be passionate about what you do. Don't just become that once you allow mediocrity to become the standard, there's nothing. I mean, at that point, why, tomorrow is my anniversary of my dad's death. He died a year ago tomorrow. And I look at it and I think, all right, on that headstone, you got the date you were born and you got the date you died. Okay. It's that dash in the middle. It's the living the dash. That's what counts. If you live that dash to the full extent that you can, and that involves passion, that involves commitment. It does not involve mediocrity. And when mediocrity sneaks in there, at that point, what are you doing? You're just waiting for that end date. You've got to be passionate about something. You've got to find that whatever drives your train. And for me, it's helping people through my legal school class.
In the little bit that I know about your dad, he definitely seemed to live that dash.
Oh, yeah. He was
I know you told me about the story of him going to Japan.
Oh, yeah.
How old was he when he went to Japan?
He was 80. Oh, he was 80. For his 89th birthday, he wanted to ride the bullet train.
Yeah.
So he went to Japan and rode the bullet train for his 89th birthday.
By himself.
And it was crazy. And I'm like, you want to go what, Dad? And I'm like, and he was still riding horses until he was 89.
Wow.
And he finally said enough, and everything. And he lived to be 93. But at the end of the day, we should all be so blessed to have that life and things. But again, his passion was helping people through his church. He lived in a very, very nice retirement home, and he was always there to meet people who were moving in and greet people. And it became that's what he wanted to do. And you've got to find that sense of purpose in life.
Yeah, that's really amazing. And I know I'm coming up on 2 years that I lost my dad in July. Mm-hmm. So you're coming up on a year tomorrow. May not want to talk about this, but how are you dealing with that? I know you guys had a really good relationship, and you went and seen him prior, right?
Oh yeah,
yeah.
And
I got to see him a couple of days, or were you there when he passed?
At the end there, and everything, and I was able to make it there as he passed, and that was good. This is the biggest thing that no one is promised tomorrow. And you've got to make sure you're living the day. Tell your loved ones you love them today. Tell your friends how much they mean to you today. Don't wait. Don't put it off. Don't be wishing I should have, could have, so-and-so. And that's one reason why I'm very passionate about making sure the one thing we don't want to talk about is our inevitable departure from this earth.
Yeah.
And having a will and getting other documents done and things like that. Because at the point in time that you leave, that's the weakest point for your family. They are so emotionally, they don't know which way is up, and now they've got to deal with complex questions about finances or life insurance, or where's the money, or how do I pay the bills, or how the house note's going to get made, those kind of things. And I just think it's absolutely irresponsible to not address those issues up front and say, okay, I'm going to leave one day, and I want to make sure that I've dotted my I's and crossed my T's and everything is prepared so my family doesn't have to worry. They have to deal with the passing anyway, just like you did with your dad and everything. And as you know, there are going to be legal things that come up. How do I sell a car that I don't have title to? And you can't, if you don't have a will, you're going to have to go through probate. And then at that point, you allow the government to make a decision as to how your assets are going to be divided. And, in my opinion, it's the same government that brought us the post office. Okay. I mean, it's like, wait a minute. I don't want you involved in that aspect of my life. So plan ahead, and it doesn't even need to be something that you have a lawyer do. You can do it on your own. There's a few things you can do, but for the most part, have that plan ready when it happens, because it's going to happen.
Yeah.
None of us are guaranteed tomorrow.
So you'll help people do the before, but you don't, and I know we've talked about this before, you don't like dealing with the families fighting and the family law. Is that the whole thing?
It's the probate side of it. When somebody passes, there's two things I don't generally do. I don't do divorce and I don't do probate kind of work, because at that point, those are the two times that I have seen that absolutely tear people apart.
Yeah.
There's always going to be some fighting, or somebody didn't get this, or somebody's not going to get that. And it's emotion and it's other things. And I just choose to not want to get involved in that drama. I really love the fact that, when I get a DUI adjudicated where they keep their license and they are allowed to drive and go to work and move forward, or I work on an accident case for them, and then I call them over to my office and I give them a nice check for things they didn't even think they were going to get.
Yeah. And
that smile's about this big, and you're like, okay. And I much rather practice that kind of law where I'm helping people in that regard. At this stage in my life, I really just don't want that interpersonal drama.
Yeah, it seems like it brings it into your life.
It does.
And that's another question is how do you disconnect sometimes? Like, what do you like to do to disconnect from all your different hats that you wear? I know you like camping.
I do. Yeah, I go out in the woods a lot of and stuff. We
won't share the bear story, but
I think that here's the other thing that I think that I'm somewhat different, that I've noticed from my younger colleagues, my Gen X colleagues, or my millennials or anything. And I'm not. It's just we're different.
Yeah.
I will think about a case at home. I will think about a matter in bed. I will think about a case when I'm sitting at dinner table, and it constantly plays through. And I'm thinking, okay, well, how can I do this? How can I do that? Where so many folks today, they have that ability to just shut it off, and they're like, okay, I've done my 8 hours or 10 hours. I'm going home. Quality of life. I'm family time, or I'm going to take the kids to soccer. I'm going to do this and that. And I'm kind of jealous of that ability to self-differentiate and say, okay, stop, enough is enough, and move on. Where I'm always thinking about it. I'm always thinking, okay, well, how can I do this? How can I do that? What's the next step? Where are they going to go with this? How do I 360 this problem? If I was on the other side, how would I do it? And it kind of plays in your mind. I think that's a lot of that ADHD type behavior that comes into play too. And you're kind of like, but I think that the biggest thing is try to get out, try to get a little exercise. The biggest thing is, and that for me is, don't hang out with a bunch of lawyers. You know what I mean? Find other people who are very interesting to talk to that have different perspectives, that have different issues and concerns and stuff. Because you get a group of anything, whether they're doctors, lawyers, teachers, DJs, or whatever, they're gonna, it's always gonna go to, oh, it's equipment, or it's this, or the new trend, or so and so. You got to break. You got to get that break, and I think that's one thing that helps me. I do literally work Monday through Saturday from about 4 a.m. till 10, 11 o'clock at night. But I can tell you, I'll be 61 this year. By about Thursday evening, I have really hit the wall, and it's you just have to keep that drive and keep that focus. But I'm sure I'll slow down at one point, and stuff. But right now, I'm having fun, and I enjoy what I'm doing, and I get to, every week I'm at El Reposo with you or Anthony's, and getting to meet people and talk to people and see folks and stuff. It's that breath of that fresh air, and just kind of get out there and have something good to eat and good fellowship.
Yeah. I once heard someone talk about ADD. They described it as having a Ferrari engine with bicycle brakes. And I heard that analogy, and it was just like, I think I have ADD. That was like a big thing for me. So like shutting it off, I bought a hammock and put it in my backyard, and I just lay there and I'll listen to some music or something like that. So I was just interested in kind of how you shut it off and keep it separated, because your wife is such a beautiful soul, and she's always so happy. So you're obviously doing something right. But,
that's a whole different podcast.
I feel like, managing your time between your practice and your family, and now, being appointed as a prime judge, or
I'm the chief judge in the city of Morrill. So it's a municipal court. I hear traffic tickets and that kind of stuff.
So you have all these different things going on. but you still seem to make time for your family, which I have so much respect for, because I feel like a lot of people make that secondary or maybe even more down the line, you know, and you keep it as a priority. And I see that. And obviously family's real big to you.
Mm-hmm.
So were your mom and dad married when your mom passed away? Were they married?
Yeah, they were. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. They stayed together. My mom passed away in 1983, and that's about the same year my dad decided to retire from the government. And, that's what I love is he was retired for over 40 years, drawing that paycheck. And I'm like, we should all be that blessed. But
yeah,
family is absolutely important. The number one thing that I can tell you that the key to any relationship is you've got to set time apart. And here's the thing. I've been married 23 years, and I'm nowhere near. I'm not a relationship expert. You never stop dating your spouse. Every once in a while, I'll call her up and say, hey, I'd like to take you out to dinner. Are you available? That little thing, and if you find that reconnection and it's like, okay, we're going to go to a new restaurant or we're going to do this or that. Remember how when you first started, you can't lose that feeling. You know what I mean? And it can't become routine and you take people for granted. You've got to make sure that they know that they are important to you and that they are just as important and just a big piece of your life. And it's about relationship management. One of the things that I do is with ADHD and those kind of things. The one thing is, Wes, and you're probably very similar to this. You have a large group of friends, but you have a very few close friends. Mm-hmm. And I find that's pretty much happens with people who have that type of thing. One thing I do is when I'm in the car, I try to call people. So I'll try to make 5 to 10 calls of people that I haven't talked to in a while. So like I'll call, somebody, Wes, I haven't talked to you in a month of, I'll call you up and I'll say, hey Wes, it's Tom. How you doing? Just wanted to check on you. So-and-so. I never want to be that guy that only calls when I need something. And I believe that you got to build on those relationships. You have to put, for lack of a better term, money in the bank.
Yeah.
And so that way, when I do need to draw on it, they're going to be like, yeah, he just doesn't call when you need something. He actually cares. That friendship's important. Just because I don't see you every day doesn't mean I don't think about you or I don't value your friendship. And I think if people were to take that same outlook, and it doesn't have to be a lot of time. Think about all the time you're in the car driving from point A to point B. Just go through your phone book and pick 2 or 3, 4 people and just call them and say, hey, just checking in on you. How you doing? Want to see what's going on in your life? How's your wife? How's your husband? How's, those kind of things. And you bring that up. And I think that in today's society where everything's all on the computer and the social media and stuff, we lack that interpersonal connection. We don't, I've got lots of friends on Facebook that I've never met. Mm-hmm. Okay. And then it's nice when I actually do meet them, excuse me, but you've got to, the people that have been a part of your life at some point, reach out to them and just say, hey, how you doing? Just check on them, And I think if we did that, the world would be a better place. That's just my personal opinion. Of course, I could be wrong.
Yeah. So going into those relationships, being in the military, I know it's kind of like a frat, right? I mean, those military guys, you guys, when you get together, it's like a reunion every time you see each other. And I've met a couple people that you have, had the pleasure of serving with. So I want to talk to you a little bit about that career, because a lot of sane people wouldn't choose to disconnect bombs and dispose of them. Yeah. So how in the world did you get into the bomb technician side? Is it, you said disposal, is that the breaking down of the bombs and disposing them? Yeah. Are you going in with that big suit that everyone's wearing? And,
you're making that, that's what we call the long walk, okay. Because it's you in that suit by yourself against that device. And that device is only geared towards the person who built it. They know everything about it. You know nothing about it. So when you make that initial assessment, you're walking up on this going, what have I got? And so many things are going through your mind. And once you do it, and once you look at it and x-ray it or whatever you're going to do, at that point you it's like anything else. You develop a plan And when you get back, you've got other people there. You're not a silo of just one person. You've got a team that supports you. You look at it and say, okay, this is how we're going to attack this, or this is what we're going to do. I think that for me anyway, EOD was the most challenging. The school's about a year and a half long, and you cover everything as far as a military bomb technician. You cover everything from small arms to nuclear weapons and everything in between.
Wow.
So it's kind of cool when you say, yeah, I my job was to keep a nuclear weapon from going mushroom, okay? Or, a IED, improvised explosive device and things. And, God bless the techs that were in Iraq and Afghanistan who were, absolutely facing some of the most difficult work that we've ever seen. And really the history of EOD really goes back to World War II, where the British actually started it with all the bombings from the Germans coming over to the UK and all this unexploded ordnance. And the Brits are really the true founders of EOD and building on that. And I look at what happened in Iraq and Afghanistan, and they're currently deployed all over the world. They're doing amazing things. And I call them kids, but I look at them and I'm like, yeah, they're kids. And unfortunately, sometimes we don't get it right. Yeah. And that's a price you pay for the company you keep, so to speak. But that never really enters into your mind. You can't be afraid. You have to do your job. And I think the good part about that is it's such a technical field, and you're actually learning and doing and moving and safeguarding and that. And, if you render safe a improvised explosive device, and now you allow that military unit to proceed through that area or get to another objective or this or that, or you clear somebody's house and they can go back and live in that house. That's that satisfaction. And I didn't go in the military choosing that. And I just saw it and I said, that's really an interesting work. Mm-hmm. And that's why and it's all volunteer. And I signed up and volunteered and went to EOD school and didn't look back.
So what was your MOS when you went in?
Well, my original MOS was 11 Bravo. I was infantry.
Okay.
And, I love that. I was like, okay, all right, here's the thing. This is really cool. I wasn't even out of high school yet. Okay. I went in the reserve and I went to basic training in AIT in between my junior and senior year. So during my junior and senior year, I shot machine guns. I threw hand grenades. I jumped out of airplanes. And then I went back to school and I was a little late. And then I realized I have nothing in common. There's nothing that it's like I grew up in that, 18 weeks that I was gone during that summer. Back then school got out on Memorial Day and you went back on Labor Day. And I think I got back like 3 weeks later. And at the end of the day, you're like, whoa, what have I got in common? And that was one of the reasons why I just said, I went down and took a GED. And that's the thing. I got a GED and I went on active duty and the rest was history. And I don't think that went over too well at all. But then later on, after I got out, I went back to college and I graduated college with a 3.98 GPA. And I got a master's degree in public administration. I had a 4.0 in that. And then my natural thing was, let's go to law school. So here I am.
That's awesome. So did you ever have to use your EOD skills? Did you ever have any like real deal bombs that you had to deal mm-hmm. with? Because you didn't go to war, did you?
Well, I was in Grenada, okay. and then in Panama. And that wasn't really a lot of EOD work per se that you see now with the like you see now in the global war on terrorism, but it was just as important. And you would have IEDs because back in the day, a lot of the locals didn't have bomb squads like they have today. Like here in Georgia, GBI covers pretty much the entire state. Well, before GBI really had a bomb squad, the Army EOD units would end up supporting them and going out on devices and things of that nature. So a lot of that mission was going on. Yeah, you worked on devices quite a bit. I was blessed. I served at the busiest NATO training range in NATO at a place called Grafenberg, Germany. And that as an EOD tech, that's your playground because everybody goes there. All the NATO services are dropping ordnance or launching missiles or doing this or that and working on those kind of things. So it was a lot of fun. And looking back at it, there's nothing I would do differently and stuff. But again, it's find your passion. And the big thing is, I think that, we all talk about how do I pay for college or this or that or anything. Military is an excellent way to go in and secure benefits for college later on. If you don't have the money, you can go to school while you're in the military. Do a 3-year, 4-year tour or something like that. Get that experience, especially if you just don't know where you're at in life. Come back out and then say, okay, because it will change the way you look at the world. And the biggest thing in the military to this day, even right now as I sit here, the one thing the military told me and taught me was attention to detail. Everything's about attention to detail, and the more you have that, the less likely you are to make a mistake or forget things. Not that I don't, but yeah. I do, but it's attention to detail. I missed that. I should have caught that, or so-and-so. When I'm talking to a client, it's the details. It's the small things that really make a difference in the overall way that I can handle your case.
Yeah, so it seems like everything that you've done kind of just prepared you for the next step. So you're kind of looking and praying and asking, what do I need to do next? So take me to how you made a decision to become a police officer. And, nowadays the police officers, the life of a police officer has changed a lot. The target on their back seems to be a lot bigger. So take me to what made you make a decision to go into law enforcement. Was there anyone that inspired you? Did you meet somebody that kind of made you realize, like, I could really make a difference by being a police officer? And also tell me a little about your experience as a young cop. Maybe there might be some young cops, some fresh some fresh blood listening, that could use some tips.
Well, I think it was a natural transition because in the Army bomb squad, you're dealing with state, federal, local cops, federal agents and things. And I think it was a natural transition. And that's what it is. Plus it was always that investigative side of me that, why does this do what it does and things. So, I was very blessed. I got hired at Henry County Police Department and, they were just starting out and I was younger at the time and, brand new department. I mean, they just opened up in 1991 and I was hired 2 weeks before they opened. I started out as a detective. I didn't actually work the road. So, I had to up my game about that. And, how do I investigate, cause it's different working in the military environment and working in a civilian environment, a little bit different, but, I enjoyed it. I loved it. And you hit one thing is it is absolutely different today than it was when I came about. I've been a sworn police officer now for 32, 34 years, something like that. Is at now, I think what happens is the difference is there's not that passion and commitment that there was back when I was. And I don't say that as a bad thing. Police today are overworked, underthanked, underappreciated. They are doing the job. They have to deal with people who are at their absolute worst. And that has to build up cumulatively. And it does jade you a little bit about the way you look at people and stuff. But the kids today that are coming into law enforcement, I think they look at it as, well, it's a job. I'm just going to, I'll be there. Well, they don't even really care about benefits. It's just, what is this job going to pay? And excuse me. And again, it's the millennial Gen X kind of mindset. And I want to encourage people to look into law enforcement. It's a great career field, but it's also, you have to understand going into it, it's a profession. It's not a job. If you want a job, go to Walmart. It's a profession. It's a calling. You're there to help people, and you're going to find that you're trying to help people who don't like you, who don't want you there, who don't, but they need you. And even in the worst scenarios where all the stuff that happened here recently with all cops are bad movement, everything like that, when people are at their worst, when people are in need of assistance, they're going to call 911.
Yeah.
And regardless of your skin color or your national origin or your ability to be in this country or your religion, law enforcement, fire, EMS, we're going to show up and we're going to treat you professionally, and we're going to treat you and save you in most cases, and deal with whatever problems it's presented. And I think that's the true thing. The big difference is, I think today, so many people that are getting into this profession have never been involved in an act of interpersonal aggression with another human being. They've never been in a fight, you know, and, you know, we don't play contact sports like we used to, you know, with the schools raising this, you know, absolute zero standard of there's no fighting and everything like that. And so then they go to a profession like law enforcement that, unfortunately, you're going to have to go hands-on with somebody. You know, there's three different people in the world. There's yes people, there's maybe people, and there's no people. And if I have to take you to jail and you're a no person, there's a good likelihood I'm going to have to go hands-on with you. And if I've never been in that environment, I don't know what it feels like. You know, Mike Tyson said it best. Everybody's got a plan till you get hit in the face. Yeah. You know, that everything changes. And it's like, okay, well, I think today the problem is a lot of these kids have never been hit in the face. And look, even that, Wes, and you remember when you got your driver's license? You know, all you thought about was like, I'm going to get my driver's license. Like when you're 12, you're like, okay, I can't wait till I get my driver's license. That freedom. It's like, okay, at 15 and 6 months, I get my learner's permit. And then it's like that. These kids don't have that. I mean, so many kids today, they're not getting their driver's license until their parents tell them, hey, you're 19 years old, you need to go get a license. You know, or you're 18, hey, I'm not driving you to college or to work, you need to go get it. It's just I'm not saying it's wrong, it's just different. And that, so I absolutely think it, and I would encourage anybody, you know, the biggest thing is whatever it is, law enforcement, EMS, medical, whatever, you've got a career there. We're never going to go away. Yeah. And you have the chance to make a difference in somebody's life. And I think if you go out there with that eyes open, goodness in your heart, that I'm here to help, and I think you're gonna make a difference in whatever community it is.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I know that some of our conversations that we've had before, you've shared that some of the stuff that's going on right now in that community, in the police community and all that stuff, a lot of it's just propaganda. It's a lot to just, you know, point the fingers at someone when there's a whole nother situation that's going on. You know, Florida just passed a law about social media. 14 years old, you can't have social media until you're 14, right? I think that a lot of stuff that gets thrown at cops comes from social media, right? Social media, you know, I don't remember who I was talking to a couple of weeks ago, but actually it was a teacher. I was talking to a teacher, and this teacher was reprimanded for disciplining a kid. The kid cussed out the teacher, said something negative, really bad to the teacher, and then under the table hit record after the kid said what they said, and then only recorded, you know. So it's the same thing with the cops, right? They're only getting recorded halfway through, or, you know, from a point of view that the whole story is not being told and stuff. So what do you think, or what's your, maybe just throwing it out there, what do you think could help with that, if there is anything? Well, Can cops come out and actually tell their side of the story? Is there a legality against that?
They can tell their side of the story, but I think you're going to have tough skin, because you're always going to have those people that no matter what happens, they're going to see their side as right, and there's no room for any other opinion. My side is right, period, and stop. And I think that's the other thing that happens with our society today. Wes, you and I can disagree on a plethora of topics. You know, we could disagree on abortion. We could disagree on who the president is. We could disagree on the state of the economy. But here's the thing. You have an opinion. I have an opinion. As long as we still have that basic respect and friendship, we can agree to disagree. That's where the problem lies. Today, it's like you become that sole single person. Oh, well, you voted for Trump. I just hate you. It's like you've just eliminated so much of that potential that you'll never, ever get, because I guarantee you, you probably have more in common than you do not in common. And I look back, and again, I love history, and I look at two very distinctive people in my life. Tip O'Neill was the Speaker of the House, old, guy from Massachusetts, and left wing, liberal, the whole 9 yards. He and Ronald Reagan were best friends. He was constantly going to the White House and having dinner and sitting down and having conversations and everything. Two opposing sides could find that common ground and still have that friendship. And that's the thing that I think we're missing today. Everybody becomes that sole single, well, how do you stand on this? Well, if you stand on that, then I can't be friends. And I look at this and I'm not an endorsement politically or anything, but when Trump became president, do you know how many people divorced their husbands? How many women divorced their husbands because they voted for Trump? And
Wow.
I was like, wow. It's like, hold on, it's not like your husband did anything wrong and that. And I'm like, we've got to move back towards taking people as the whole person rather than just one single issue and saying, well, I don't like West because West is against abortion or pro, whatever it is. You can't you've got to look at that person as a whole and say they still provide value. They still have that, and I can still be friends. And I think that's one of the reasons why, like when I went to law school, I went to John Marshall, and I went there because one of the reasons was most people in my class didn't look like me. Okay? They were younger, people of color, people with very smart, people that some of them I'm like, I don't know how you got here, but you did good, and everything in between. And I always took it upon that as like, I didn't want to go to school with a bunch of people who looked just like me. I wanted that diversity and that inclusion, and I wanted that ability to see the world in other people's eyes. And because I can't pretend to know what it's like to be a black male growing up in a fatherless home.
Yeah.
Okay, show me how. What do you feel? What's different there? It doesn't make you a bad person. It's like, okay, let me learn from that. And I think the problem is we get so wrapped up in our own little things, and it's easy. And getting back to what you said, it's easy to be a keyboard warrior. Okay, when I'm sitting in the basement and I'm typing on my thing, it's easy to say things and do things that I wouldn't say in polite company. And I think that's really, we have to, I think we really need to limit social media. People have to put their own limits on it. Say, okay, I'm going to do 20 minutes a day or 30 minutes a day. It's a great tool to keep up with friends and keep up with things that are going on, but it becomes when the first thing you do in the morning is grab your phone, or you're in the bathroom and becomes your a normal 10-minute, 5-minute thing becomes a 20-minute or 30-minute thing. It's like, stop. You're spending way too much time looking at it in that, and then you get exposed to this, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, I get caught up in that. You got to get off, unplug from social media, go talk to somebody, grab a cup of coffee, go sit down and go, hey, I'm Tom. How are you? Tell me about your story. Tell me about your life. You'll find that you will, number one, you will get more satisfaction out of that than you ever will on social media. And I think that's really what, unfortunately, the men and women in law enforcement today are dealing with, is that whole social media. We live in a vacuum of that 15 minutes of fame and glory, that 3-minute TikTok kind of thing. And that's not what life is. That's a brief snippet of something that you need to look at the whole picture.
Yeah, they came out, I was reading a study the other day about COVID, and the average time that a person was spending on their phone was about 4 to 5 hours a day on social media. That went from 5 to 9 during COVID, and they're correlating it with the rise in depression and suicide in teens and all this stuff. And it makes a lot of sense, because we know everyone puts the perfect stuff on social media, or the really raunchy bad stuff, right? If you're spending all day watching fighting videos, you're probably going to want to fight, or you're going to feel like you can fight if it comes upon you. I remember growing up, I used to watch Three Ninjas, right? And then afterwards, you're wanting to karate chop your sister or something, She was bigger than me, and she used to karate chop me back. But, I feel like a lot of stuff that the police are dealing with stems from that mental health. And I don't know if you know this or not, you probably do, but there's no more, the correct terminology, I don't know, but there's no more insane asylums anymore, right? They've taken, we used to have like 200 in the country, and now there's like 10. So mental health is not something that anyone wants to deal with anymore. Instead, we'll just lock them up and, grow that whole industrial jail complex and all that.
We're incarcerating when we should be treating.
Yeah. So there's people in there in jail that have mental health issues that probably could have been prevented. And now me and you are paying for their 3-course meals and everything else. So I think a lot that the police are dealing with nowadays just stems from the lack of mental health awareness, And for me in my own journey, it's made me realize how important it is for me to be able to separate. That's why I was asking you about that, because, I can go out to lunch somewhere and 5 people come up to me and try to talk to me and all that. Like, I have to figure out a way and a place to separate from, because when those 5 people come up to me, I want to be able to greet them, be, presentable and nice to them and all that. I don't want to be, I mean, I'm having my time right now, leave me alone kind of thing, so mental health is huge. And, I don't know how much you see as a sitting judge, but is that something that America, or if you were the president, is that something that you would implement more of with this, more of the substance abuse, more of the mental health, psychology stuff and all that? Like,
I think absolutely I would, but I think a lot of that goes hand in hand. The mental health issues, the substance abuse issues, things of that nature, we've got to do a better job. We're not going to, we've been fighting the quote unquote war on drugs for 50, 80 years, and it doesn't get any better. And now we're dealing with a fentanyl crisis, and now we're, and things of that nature. We've got to do a better job of not, we're attacking the supply side of it. We got to attack the demand side of it and get people to say, I don't need that. I can do this, and I don't need to just, slip away and that, because when you come back, the problem's still there.
Yeah.
And, we've got to do better on that. The people who have mental health, in a lot of cases, there are people that are truly walking this earth that should be in some inpatient facility somehow, some way. But most of them, it's a medication issue, it's a treatment issue, it's a counseling issue, and they're perfectly fine to be in society, and we miss that. We're putting so much of the social media medicine type stuff is not, well, I can't, Medicare's not going to cover that, or Medicaid's not going to cover that, or so and so, and I think we've missed the boat on that, and I think we end up, especially in the public safety arena, we end up having to deal with it when that person has that episode. And, somebody's they're at their very worst, and they pull a gun or a knife on a police officer. That's not going to end well.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, and then everybody wants to blame the officer. In reality, I understand that it's a mental illness. Now, I will say this, though. Governor Brian Kemp has mandated mental health training for all public safety officers, mandated dealing with what we call EDPs, emotionally disturbed persons. How do we do this? How do we that? Even, for instance, Clayton County Police Department has a full-time social worker on staff that goes out and tries to assist people and help people and find that alternative from incarceration and go from there, because they're not going to get the treatment they need. We're going to warehouse people. We're going to put them in a facility, or we're going to put them in the state system. They're not going to get the care. They're not going to get the treatment they need. And in reality, it may even be worse for them. And that's why we see things of suicide or jail incidents and that. But,
yeah,
going forward, I think that we've got to do a better job on that. And this is the biggest thing, is it's okay to not be okay.
Yeah.
But that's one of the you cannot self-diagnose that. In mental illness, you can't it's one of those things. If I cut my arm, I know, okay, I cut my arm, I need to go get treatment. Mental illness is one of the rare things that it's very difficult for a person to self-diagnose and say, look, I'm having problems. I got to go see somebody. That's where that family member, that friend steps in that very caring and loving way and say, hey, and you've got to be able to back it up, and we've got to be able to have those resources available in the community. that gets the people the help they need. And I believe that there are more. The depression, COVID certainly didn't help that, but I think a lot of that is get off your phone.
Yeah.
That phone and that social media brings things to you that you would never normally be exposed to. Think of the stuff that's sexual nature. Think about the hate speech. Think about the disparaging comments and things like that. It's not a good place. And if you're there and kind of floundering, like, okay, which way am I going to go, or this or that, it's easy to buy into that, when in fact it's an opinion. Get off the phone. Next time you go to a restaurant, you see it all the time. Yeah. Look around. Families at dinner and everybody's on their phone. It's like, put your phone down. One thing we'll do is we'll play a little game with some folks that I work with. Is everybody will put their phone on the table in front of them. We'll have lunch and we'll talk and this and that. The first person that picks up their phone bought lunch for
That's
everybody.
a good idea.
It's like, leave your phone, until we're done, and there's nothing that important. But get off social media. It's fun to have, but you got to keep it like anything else with a little temperance.
Yeah. So if somebody needs your help or expertise or whatever, where's the best place for them to reach out to you? Is it social media or?
Well, I keep a social media page for my firm, both that Instagram, Twitter, and that, and I try to post things that are meaningful and helpful, and that. But my office is here in Fayetteville. My phone number is 678-719-0331. I'm never too busy to sit down and talk with somebody, or to return that phone call or something. I may not be able to pick up the phone and talk to you right now. Yeah. But I will absolutely call you back. A lot of times when I'm in the car going from appointment to appointment or job to job, it's like I've got that time. It's like, how do I be more productive? I'll call you, tell me. And a lot of times people just want to be heard. Yeah. And they may not have a case, but at least they've got that warm fuzzy that I talked to somebody and, gone from there. And I tell people, I'm like, everybody wants to go to Google, okay? And I try to tell people this. It's like, look, don't let your Google search interfere with a law degree. You know what I mean? Go and talk to a professional, whether it's me or somebody else. Talk to a lawyer, talk to somebody, get the advice you need, and then make smart decisions.
That's amazing. So I got one last thing I wanted to talk about. Last night, laying in bed, I was thinking of this meeting and talking with you. Oliver Anthony. We both seem to like this guy.
Love him.
Okay. Why do you think, or what's your opinion, and this is what we'll end on, but why do you think he went so viral so quick, and he literally recorded this stuff on his Android phone? I don't even think it was an iPhone.
In his backyard.
In his backyard. And now he has gone viral, and, what do you think, or what do you like about him?
I think the biggest thing with him is, I think number one is he is genuine and he is real. What you see is what you get. There's no fluff. There's no floss. There's no hype. There's no anything. Here's a guy that living paycheck to paycheck, he's an accomplished musician. He's got a great voice. And he actually, the first time I heard his song, Richmond, North of Richmond, and I was like, it just made so much sense about, it's the decline of the middle class in this country. And this country has really gotten to a point where, and I'm not a gloom and doom guy, don't get me wrong, but it seems like we've gone more towards the haves or the have-nots. And the haves have grown exponentially, and they're kind of controlling. And that song talks about that, about, the rich men north of Richmond, Virginia, yeah. i.e. that whole belt. And you think about it, Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, New York City, that whole area there. And it just hit and resonates with, here's a guy that's doing the best he can, and he's never going to get ahead. The best he's ever going to get is what he's got now.
Yeah.
And, we talk about, I saw this, and again, I'm going to divert a little bit. Atlanta, I just saw a report yesterday. Atlanta has the highest percentage of corporate home ownership designed for rental rather than purchase. It's difficult to buy a house in Atlanta as a first-time home buyer, okay? Because all these corporations have bought up all these houses, and they're like, okay, we're going to rent it to you. We're not going to sell it to you. We'll rent it. and we'll take all this money and this capital and do that. And they're controlling, I don't know, 17, 19% of all the rental market in Metro Atlanta. So how do I grow wealth? How do I prepare for future wealth generation to pass down to my kids or increase my quality of life? If the number one thing I can't purchase a home, I can't, that wealth generation, then you just become that, for lack of a better term, slave to a paycheck. Yeah. And I think that's what he was speaking to in that song. It's like, I'm just spinning my wheels, and the rich keep getting richer, and I just keep staying the same. And at that point, I mean, when you hear him, he sings from his heart. It's not like he just wrote this out and said, okay, I'm going to make a buck on this. It wasn't like he was a professional. This wasn't Nashville. This wasn't that. And that's what I think really tore the backside out of so many of these record producers and these companies and everything, and said, this guy did this on that. And then he followed it up with, like, he would go and do like the Blueberry Festival in so-and-so, North Carolina. I mean, these were his venues. I mean, look at his venues. He's coming to Georgia, and what's his highest ticket price is like $45.
Yeah.
Everybody can afford that. What would you pay for front row at a Taylor Swift concert?
Probably $5-10 grand, maybe.
That's the disconnect.
Yeah.
This guy is real. This guy's from the heart. And he's got, I don't know if you've ever seen it, that he's done some collaborations with a young lady from Germany who plays a fiddle.
No.
She's a violinist, classically trained violinist. And she plays, if you get a chance, look at his YouTube stuff with her. Ava is her first name, AVA, I think. And she has jumped in there with him and added the violin to this and that side. And it's just, you're like, this is real music. This isn't, you and I can make music. If I got a laptop and a program, we can make music. Okay. Yeah. And I can change the vocal, and I can make it sound like anybody I want and put it out there and go from there. And that's not what he is. He puts his phone up and says, okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3, check. And he's singing it in. And I just think that there are so many people out there that are looking for the next Oliver Anthony. He's a guy that I can emulate. He's a guy that I can follow. He's somebody that I can identify with. I can't identify with Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
I can't identify with insert here, but this guy's real. And I think that's what it is. And I think people want that realness. People want to connect with people that number one are like them, and number two have found that way to connect. And I think that's the biggest thing.
I wouldn't be surprised when we get to heaven if God had something to do with him. Now, every concert he starts off reading scripture and pushing people to have like a realization of the times that we're in, and he's like a forerunner for what's preparing to be happening. So, I just wanted to get your take on it, man. But
I think that's you just hit on something. I don't want to into the religious part of it. I have my religion. You have yours. You have your connection with God. And I'm not. You believe what you want to believe, okay? But have that sense of spiritual being, and I think that's missing. We've taken God out of the classrooms.
Yeah.
We can't pray in football thing, and even if it's a moment of silence, even that's frowned on. And it's like, my thing is you can take religion out of school, but as far as I'm concerned, there's always going to be praying, because you're going to be praying before you take that test, okay? Or you're going to be praying for that guidance when so-and-so doesn't want to go to prom with you or something. It's always there. And I think we've got to return that center. If you look, every single bill, what's it say on there? In God we trust.
Yeah.
And this country was founded on those beliefs. And I'm not solely just taking a Christianity view. I mean, it doesn't matter to me what you believe. Just have a belief. Yeah. And even if you don't, even if you say, okay, I understand that and I'm not, it's still a belief, and you're following it. There's no atheist in a foxhole.
Yeah.
You're going to be, it all changes when your life changes, and then all of a sudden it goes from there. But I think we've got to return that back to center and try to find that ability to find a way to spiritually connect, because that also, if you have that relationship with God, if you have that relationship with your keeper, that relationship then sets the tone for relationships that you're going to have with your family, your coworkers, your friends. Everything else stems from that. And that's just my life. I don't know how other people live theirs, but if I have that connection, I find that it makes me better as a person.
That's awesome, man. Tom, dude, this was awesome. Thank you so much for being with us, man. And we'll definitely have to do it again. And I'm very excited about this whole platform that God's put together, and anything I can ever do for you, man, definitely let me know. And, today's podcast is going to be sponsored by you. So in the middle somewhere, we'll have a little shout out for you and all that stuff. But I greatly appreciate your friendship, your guidance, and all that stuff, man. And
I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, brother, for having me. Man. And you're doing good things, Wes.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate you. Have a good day, brother. I'll see you guys soon. Take care.